going into more of our history, but it's like what we're saying with the prophecies here. They're not chronological. We have to connect the prophecy with history. So ones will overstand, we're not just talking about pie in the sky. You understand? We're talking about the roof of Africa. We're talking about that mountain range. Talking about the primordial mound that is high in the sky because it's called the roof of Africa. That first mound that ascended out of the waters from the Kui land, where the Nu came from, or the ancestors. Down the Nile came Yahweh's worship. You understand? Because the sons of Noah, with the exception of the Canaan, notice this, the sons of Noah, we're talking about Shem, Kam, and Yafet, they all were Yahweh's worshippers because of Noah, their father. It was already foreseen, the Canaan. You understand? And that's another aspect of the story that we're not going to go into because people wonder, like, what was really going on there in Genesis? Why was Canaan cursed? Why, if Ham did this, why did they curse Canaan? It wasn't Ham that did what you think he did. You see what I'm saying? When you look at father's nakedness, and Muse is the one that wrote the Orit, the Torah, and Beraset. You understand? Beraset. Ras is right in the middle of that word. And there's something that we're going to share when we get on the Beraset studies, because Ras, head, in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So in the head, it was Muse that basically wrote those things, and therefore the code to break in that, what does father's nakedness mean? Father's nakedness means one's father's wife. Now think about this for a moment. Could it be that Kam had sex with his father's wife, or could it be that Kam's son, Canaan, had sex with his own so-called grandmother, or lusted? And so you have to understand these things. A lot of folks don't want to look at it like that because that would breed bastards. Think about that, genetically speaking. You see what I'm saying? When we look at the Canaan, we would like to say they were all white, but it wasn't all white. But the curse of lymph their way was amongst them, which was the leprosy, the old-time leprosy that Muse also explains to us, turns the skin white as snow. Remember Moses' hand in his breast, as well as the yellowness of the hair, explains that. I think Leviticus 13 explains all of those signs of the old-time leprosy, which today is called vitiligo. Now you got a lot of black folks, it seems like, who are getting vitiligo. Isn't this interesting? As blacks, lost sheep have turned more and more from their way, we're getting these strange sort of diseases that are happening. You understand? And these diseases, which goes back, you understand, to the Kamet, to the Kam, to the plagues, to the coming out, to the time of Muse, and are explained by these things. So we get a full cipher. You know, we're just doing a full cipher on this, and the next thing we need to touch on, we'll probably touch on this in another teaching, is the Jacob trouble. You know what I'm saying? The time of Jacob's Yaakob's Mekara. It's very important that we understand how the 2012 is linked with Yaakob's Mekara, and also how we are to escape and overcome. We're not talking about rapture in the sense of counterfeit Christianity, but if there's a taking up into the air, into the spirit, then we're going to teach you on that, because that's what it talks about when it talks about we're taking up into the air. But the air, you have to understand, there's the God of the world who is the prince of the air. When we're taking up into the air, we're taking up into the spiritual, ethereal, metaphysical warfare. You understand? And we basically, the God of this world becomes cast out, cast down. Satan becomes defeated when we're taken up. And when we're taken up, what happens? According to the prophecy, Johannes Arai, Satan is cast down. Because we're taken up to the air. To meet who in the air? To meet Getachin Jesus Christos, because he's a life-giving spirit. So we're meeting him spiritually. It's not about the so-called literalistic misinterpretations of the word, which has really caused more harm than good for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. This is part of the fall of man. when man no longer understood the symbolism. Man no longer understood that primitive natural genesis. He no longer understood the mythos, the story, you understand, or the logos, or the word, or the logia, the logic. What was the logic of the story? In other words, he no longer understood the moral of the story. And this is where we're at right now with Christianity, with religion in general. Ones have lost the moral of the story because Satan is desperate. He only got a short period of time.